So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Victoria Memorial Hall, welcome to this evening's panel discussion on 50 years in the journey of a nation, based on the book Biplabi Bangla, Sonar Bangla. I would like to invite Sri Shamarendra Kumar, Secretary and Curator of Victoria Memorial Hall, to welcome the audience, please.
Well, good evening and namaskar to all of you who are present here. Respected Justice Hemant Gokhale ji, Justice Indira Banerjee ji, Shri Honorable Ilyas ji, the Honorable Deputy High Commissioner of Bangladesh in Kolkata, Ms. Anita Agnihotri, eminent author and retired civil servant, Shri Bapaditya Roy Biswas, writer, poet and translator, my dear friend Mr. Dr. Jain Sen Gupta, the former secretary and curator of VMH, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, invited guests, friends from media and colleagues from Victoria Memorial Hall. So it's my great privilege on behalf of Victoria Memorial Hall to and pleasure in welcoming all of you to this very interesting and exciting panel discussion on 50 years in the journey of a nation. I understand that this discussion will focus on the book Biplabi Bangla, Sonar Bangla, written originally in Marathi by Justice Hemant Gokhale ji, and which was then translated into English and more recently into Bengali. And I understand that it contains about 20 essays written by Sri Gokhale ji, and in fact it was done in a prestigious magazine called Sadhana. And the first set was when he was a young student volunteer, and he traveled to Bangladesh in 1971. And then he experienced the trauma and exodus of people from the war-torn street, and then traveled to the North Bengal. And later, as a judge of the Supreme Court, when he went to Bangladesh, again he saw the things in Bangladesh, and then his experience and all those things, observations. So basically, this book, the Biplabi Bangla, Sonar Bangla, capture his memorable experience and observations over a time back of more than 4 decades or so, sir. So it is, and it is also coinciding with the centenary celebrations of the birth of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the architect of Bangladesh. So I'm sure that with other panelists who are there, we'll get a lot of more valuable inputs into this discussion. And so in fact, I'm also looking forward to this very exciting panel discussion, sir. Thank you once again, and we welcome you all to this very eminent discussion today on this, the book which is called 50 Years of Journey of a Nation, Biplabi Bangla and Sonar Bangla. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sri Kumar. May I now request the distinguished panelists to please take their seats here in front. So may I request Justice Hemant Gokhale, Justice Indira Banerjee, Sri Andalib Elias Janabji, Srimati Anita Agnihotri, and Sri Bapaditya Roy Biswas. Before they settle down over here, the panelists, may I request you the usual request of kindly put off your cell phones or keep them on silent mode so that they don't ring in the middle of a very interesting discussion. So if you have not done it so far, please take a minute to do that. And before I hand over proceedings to Anita Agnihotri for moderating this session, I would request Sri Shamarendra Kumarji to do another pleasant task on behalf of Victoria Memorial, to give a memento to each of these panelists over here on behalf of Victoria Memorial. Any order?
Any order.
Left to right or right to left?
Starting from the youngest.
Okay, with that, I hand over proceedings to Srimati Anita Agnihotri, and she will take you through the rest of the evening through the panel discussion. And I'm sure you would also take some questions at the end or comments from the audience. And after which, there is the customary cha ta outside. Okay.
I'll come to the dais, I think it's better.
That's why we have made this provision. Whoever is more comfortable speaking from here, please.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Samarendra Kumar, Secretary and Curator, distinguished members of the panel, also the distinguished guests who have assembled here, members of the press. At the outset, I deeply appreciate the interest Victoria Memorial Hall has taken in this book and the discussion around it, especially the association of Mr. Samarendra Kumar, who has multifaceted responsibilities and joined recently. I also appreciate the thoughtfulness of Mr. Raju Raman, who has curated the event, and Dr. Jayanta Sengupta, the former secretary and curator, who had generously welcomed the idea, and that's how we went ahead. Well, I speak a few words about the book, not the content obviously, but the way I look at it. It's a very special and unconventional book written by Mr. Hemant Lakshman Gokhale, who is a former Justice Supreme Court of India, a book that has traveled from Marathi to English and then very naturally to Bengali. As an Indian Bengali writer who is connected to Bengal by birth and to Maharashtra by marriage, I can understand well the journey of the book and the deep insight of the author in understanding history and society in the context of both West Bengal and Bangladesh. Let me first introduce the author to you. Justice Hemant Gokhale is a very distinguished person. He had a long career with the judiciary. He was the Chief Justice of Allahabad and Chennai High Courts. He was appointed Judge of Supreme Court in 2010 and retired in 2014. When he was practicing in Bombay High Court, industrial law, constitutional law, and public interest matters were his specialization as a practicing advocate. He visited Supreme Courts of UK and USA in 2013 and also traveled to South Africa to attend a seminar on law. And since I know him a little bit, probably in person, I can add that he has a fine judicious mind and a very, very pro-people, kind, generous person. At this point, let me just mention that the Bappaditya Roy Bishwas, a young poet and translator, I'll speak later about him, he has translated the book into Bengali from English. But the Bengali book, its publication has been possible because of the initiative taken by Bengali publisher Ekush Shatak. Is Obhijit there? Obhijit, can you just come to the front for a minute? Obhijit Kundu is the young Karnodhar, as we say, of Ekush Shatak. He has been looking after the tradition his father, Mr. Arun Kundu, has set up. He is a technocrat, an IT professional who is now into publishing. Just let people see you. It's wonderful because Ekush Shatak brought out 80 books in book fair, and he gave special attention to this book so that it could come out properly. The books are on display here. People who are interested can see it. We cannot have sale of books here, but for you to see. I think it has come out quite well. Mr. Samarendra Kumar already mentioned about the book, the content, a set of 20 articles. It's a magnificent coincidence, really. The same author, 50 years apart, the same distinguished Marathi journal, Sadhana, and his writing about a country, first before it was born, and then when it has blossomed into a full-fledged developed economy and a rapidly progressing democracy. The first set of articles were written when he traveled as a young student volunteer to the border of West Bengal, and that then is Pakistan. The articles reflect the sensitivity and thoughtfulness of a young mind. When I was reading the first set of 10 articles, I realized when I was a young school student, when these were being written, and was not fully aware of the grim reality of the time, reading of the book took me back to early 70s and revived many memories which had got relegated to one corner of my mind. What happens in Bengal, we mostly come across articles written by Bengali authors in Bangladesh. That way, this book is very special because, two Bengals had been one once upon a time. And there are people who are always wishing that Dui Bangla will become one second, which is not a political possibility anymore. But the matter is that we have a mix of nostalgia and, thoughtfulness about Bangladesh, and we are not very objective. The book by Justice Hemant Gokhale is a fine balance between nostalgia and objectivity, which makes the book very different. He was invited to Bangladesh again for a series of lectures in law in 2020, and that gave him an opportunity to travel and see Bangladesh, visiting institutions and places that connect Bengal with Bangladesh, understanding its legal system, the educational institutions, and its industrial development. The questions he has asked about secularism are equally important. Justice Gokhale's analytical way of writing about Bangladesh will significantly add to our understanding of the nation, which has completed its 5 decades of journey and is marching ahead. With these few words, I will request Justice Gokhale to speak about the book, and after that, Justice Indira Banerjee, because she has to leave to take a flight. So we will sequence it, and Mr. Anjali Elias, you may be in the last speaker. 2 young people at the end. Thank you so much. Now I'll go back to my seat.
Namaskar, and to begin with, thanks to all of you and the ladies and gentlemen on the dais for sparing their time and coming over here where we are going to have a discussion on my book. The better thing would be that somebody should speak in Bangla. আমি বাংলা বলতে পারি না, বুঝতে পারি একটু একটু. So I'll prefer to speak in English, and it's a little awkward to speak about one's own book, but that is the responsibility Anita ji has placed on me. And I'll try to conclude as early as I can, because I'm more interested in listening my sister Indira Banerjee, and she is in a hurry to go back to Delhi. I'm extremely grateful to her that in spite of other personal requirements, she has spared time, and that is because she had given the commitment to me, and that's how she is here. Now, what is the book about? What is the book about? And on the rare side of the book, Mr. Madhavrao Godbole, who was the former Union Home and Justice Secretary, I'm extremely grateful that he has written the foreword. Those of you who have known a little about him, he was the Home Secretary when Babri Masjid was demolished. And that was against the advice that he had given to the central government. And he had given some advice. I won't say anything about that. He has already written about it. And, in view of those developments, he had the courage to resign. Now, in the foreword to my book, he says, this writing is a part memoir, part travelogue, and it also has some interviews. But in my view, this book is an important account of the transformation that has taken place in Bangladesh since its emergence as an independent nation. Now, as Anita ji has pointed out, in 1971, I was just a young man of 22, and the refugees, almost 80 lakh refugees had come to India. And I was with one youth group, and we decided to go to the Bangladesh border and work for the refugees. We worked in the camp, which was arranged by Narayan Bhai Desai. Now, some of you must be knowing about Narayan Bhai Desai. He is the son of Mahadev Bhai Desai, who was secretary to Gandhiji. Now, we worked in that camp, and my friends returned back to Mumbai. I had a friend whose ancestors lived in Jalpaiguri. Unfortunately, he has passed away in the meanwhile. So he invited me to come to Jalpaiguri. So I decided to go. Now, in those days, Farakka barrage had not come up. So one had to go from Calcutta up to the banks of Ganga by train, then travel by steamer and take another train to go to North Bengal. And North Bengal that time was infested with Naxalites. So when I reached there, I mean, there were many incidents in which myself and my friend, we were caught up in some of the difficult situations. So all those things, and then I also saw the plight of the tea garden workers in North Bengal. And so I thought I should write something. And that's how I wrote my first 10 articles. And then again, as Anita ji pointed out, well, after my retirement, when I was invited by university in Dhaka to visit for law lectures, I said, let me go and see what has happened. Because I had seen the plight of the refugees. I wanted to see how the nation has come up. So I went there once again. And, I met, after my lectures, I visited different places. I went to Noakhali, where Gandhiji had gone to quell the riots. I went to see the house of Rabindranath Tagore, which is also there in East Bengal. Then I visited Pabna, where from Suchitra Sen came to India. She was just about 16 or 17 years of age when partition took place, and she came to India, became an actress, became famous. Now her house was captured by Jamaat-e-Islami people. And what is interesting to note, which I learned when I went over there, that people of Pabna protested against that. They took out processions, they fought the matter up to the court and got the house released, and now there is a museum in the name of Suchitra Sen, which not many Bengalis also are knowing, and which I came to know when I visited Pabna. And one of the photographs which is there in my book, which is a rare photograph, I must say, which is a photograph of the Shobha Yatra, which was taken out by the people of Pabna when the house was released. You have that photograph in the English book at page 146, and probably this is the first time that this photograph has been printed in a book. There is, and then I've been to Islamic University at Kushtia. I went to see the Dargah of Lalan Shah Fakir, whose poems are sung, in Bengal, Eastern Bengal as well as Western Bengal. So different places I visited, and then I felt that I must write about them. Some interesting persons I met. One of them, of course, was Kamal Hussain, the draftsman of the Bangladesh Constitution, and his wife. And again, about when I met Kamal Hussain, he presented me his book on the struggle of Bangladesh. Now, in that book, he refers to another book written on Surawardi, who was very much criticized in western part of Bengal, but who was the leader of Sheikh Mujib. And what Surawardi says in that book is quoted by Kamal Hussain in his book. And on page 102 of my book, I've quoted a relevant paragraph. And what Surawardi has stated is this: he has paid a tribute to Deshbandhu C.R. Das. Now this is something very interesting, and this is what Surawardi says. Deshbandhu C.R. Das was the greatest Bengali, may I say Indian, scarcely less in stature than Mahatma Gandhi I have ever had the good fortune to know. He was endowed with a wide vision. He was totally non-communal. I believe with many that had he lived, he would have been able to guide the destiny of India along channels that would have eliminated the cause of conflict and bitterness which had bedeviled the relationship between Hindus and Muslims, and which, for want of a just solution, led to the partition of India and the creation of Pakistan. Now again, there is one more interesting thing, there is a photograph of Gandhiji on fast, and that photograph I got from the ashram at Noakhali. There is a ashram set up now at Noakhali, and in that ashram I found a photograph which again is not seen by many people otherwise. When Gandhiji was fasting, Suravardi was sitting by his side in Calcutta, and there were two volunteers standing behind, young volunteers, and one of them was Sheikh Mujib. And that photograph is at page 114 of my English book. Of course, it is carried in the Bengali book also. Then some interesting persons I met, about whom also I have written. As I mentioned, Kamal Hussain and Hamida Hussain. Then Meghana Guha Thakurta, some of you must have heard about her. She has been canvassing for a reform in Hindu law, amongst other things. And I am happy that the Deputy High Commissioner of Bangladesh is present here. And I wish that the Bangladesh government takes it up, the cause of Hindus, and brings about a reform in Hindu law in Bangladesh. Something very interesting. Most of you perhaps would be knowing that Dr. Ambedkar was elected to the India's Constituent Assembly from districts which have become a part of Bangladesh. He becomes a member of Indian Constituent Assembly. Later on, with partition, his membership was gone. Then he was again brought in. And during his career as law minister, he saw to it that the Hindu law is reformed. Initially, there was hiccup and the difference with Prime Minister, so therefore he resigned on this issue. But the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru saw to it that, well, those enactments are passed, and in 1954 to 56, you have all those Hindu law reform laws, because of which the Hindu women have been benefited. Now, as far as the Muslim women are concerned, maybe over the years, but luckily now, steps like triple talaq, etc., have been banned. It is high time that in Bangladesh also similar reform takes place as far as Hindus are concerned. Hindu population is nearly 1.5 crores. Half of them are women, and they have no rights. It is the old Daibhag Hindu law which applies over there. So it is high time that that is done, and Meghna Guha Thakurta, along with her colleagues, are taking steps in that behalf. There was another interesting person whom I met. That was a retired Air Commodore, Ishtiaq Chowdhury. After retirement, he had taken up the position of registrar of a university, which had invited me. And when I was introduced to him, and when he had a good interest in history, and when he heard my surname Gokhale, he said, Gokhale was the mentor of Jinnah. I said, not merely Jinnah, of Gandhiji. And then thereafter he asked me, have you heard of Vinoba Bhave? I said, yes. Then he asked me, do you know that Vinoba Bhave had come to East Pakistan? I said, no, this is the news to me. And then he told me that during the Bhudan movement, Vinobaji, who had gone to Assam to cross over to West Bengal during the floods, he had gone through East Pakistan. Now, the father of this Commodore Chowdhury was working as a police officer there. And this officer was of just 8 or 10 years old that time. And he says that, well, Vinobaji came to that part of the territory of East Pakistan. He had his lectures. He appealed the people for Bhudan. Hindus thought that he was a saint. Muslims thought that he was a fakir. But whatever it is, and then he said, I'll give you the photographs of the school Maidan, where his lectures were held. And he sent me those photographs. Now, of course, you can't, for this problem of space, all photographs could not be printed, but one photograph has been printed where the meeting took place. So some of these interesting things, some of the persons whom I met, well, I have covered them. And The then editor of Sadhana from Pune, he was, earlier editor was Narendra Dabholkar, who was assassinated in Pune, you must be knowing, rationalist and obscurantist people shot him. Now the young editor who has now taken up, he said that we must publish these articles. Those earlier 10 articles and the new 10 articles. So both are combined and placed into this book. And then of course they have been translated into English, and thanks to Bapaditya, Roy Biswas and Mr. Kundu, now this book is available in Bengali. Something interesting, from yesterday, my articles are now being, the subsequent 10 articles are being printed in a Gujarati newspaper, Gujarat Today. And those and the earlier 10 also probably may take a form in Gujarati. Well, on this occasion, I thank all of those who have helped me to bring this about. I thank Anita ji. She has taken a lot of interest in getting the translation done. Then of course Mr. Kundu, who has published, and Roy Biswas, the translator. Well, then I must thank Teen Deviya. The first, of course, is Anita ji, whom I mentioned. The second is Indira Banerjee. She has been kind enough to come over in spite of a personal family requirement in Delhi. In fact, prior to this, I have met, I think she will confirm me, I have met her only on 3 occasions. First was when 150 years of Calcutta High Court were celebrated, and I was a judge in the Supreme Court. I had come over here. She was a judge in the High Court of Calcutta. That was the first time we met. Then the second time we met was when she became the Chief Justice of Madras High Court. And that was the first day after she took oath. And I happened to be in Madras for some other work, so I called on her. That was the second time I met. What happened in that discussion, she will tell. I don't want to tell that. And the third was when, rather I will tell, third was when she came to Bombay for a lecture. And immediately when we met, she said, "Sir, your advice helped me when I was Chief Justice in Madras." I said, "What advice?" She said, "Sir, you know there are so many caste conflicts everywhere, and particularly in Madras." And then I said, "What was my advice?" Now, during my tenure as Madras Chief Justice, the statue of Dr. Ambedkar was put up in the campus of Madras High Court. And she says that I advised her to go to the statue and garland and then go to the court, which she did, and she says that she had no difficulty thereafter. Well, that was the third time when we met, and now she is also retired, and in the felicitation to her on retirement, I read it, I heard it on YouTube. She said that she is going to spend time in reading, and therefore I took advantage of that. I said, "Well, kindly look into this book and try to come when it is translated and published in Bengali." Well, I thank the Deputy High Commissioner of Bangladesh. He is here, and I wish he takes my request seriously and takes it up with Bangladesh government to see to it that the Hindu law in Bangladesh is reformed, because there is no protection to women under the old law, because otherwise all that reform was not necessary in India also. And so therefore, and they have a progressive Prime Minister. She is concerned with women, and she has brought about a good reform as far as the life of women in Bangladesh is concerned. So this social reform is also necessary, and I wish that the Deputy High Commissioner conveys this to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Well, I thank all of you who are present here. Well, my English book, I have brought some copies. Those who are interested, they may look into. The Bengali book, of course, is available here. A few books, few copies of the Marathi book also I have brought. I have some friends from Maharashtra Nivas also. They are present here. I thank them for remaining and coming over here. Well, I thank the curator, present curator and the past curator as well, and both of them, and Mr. Raman, the coordinator of this institution. All of them have helped me and Anita ji basically in seeing to it that, well, this function takes place. And what I would like to say is that there is so much hatred being spread all over the world for that matter, and in India also. You know what is happening. I don't have to tell you that. And particularly as far as Bangladeshis are concerned, now things have improved a little bit, but earlier times there was a tremendous hatred against Bangladesh. Bangladeshi people coming to India. Why are they coming here? They should be sent back. Well, any poor person who doesn't get a job in his country goes somewhere else. He is not happy in going there. But now they are not coming. Now you will find that Bangladesh is doing far better than India as far as apparel industry is concerned, as far as leather goods are concerned. And that also I have mentioned when I went to Pabna. What I saw, galas after gala, women are working in the garment industry, and galas after gala, men are working in the leather industry. And Vietnam and Bangladesh has gone ahead of India as far as these activities are concerned. And I have also referred to Grameen Bank, how it has come up, how it is helping the women. Unfortunately, we didn't have sufficient time, and therefore I couldn't meet the chairman of the bank. But these are the things I have placed here, and I wish my book in Bengali goes around, to better readers in West Bengal as well as in Bangladesh or elsewhere. Thank you very much for sparing your time. Thank you.
I will just briefly introduce Justice Madam Indira Banerjee. Very few words. We are immensely proud of her. She's the pride of Calcutta, I would say. A student of Presidency College, the same as many of our college. Then she studied law in the University of Calcutta, and she had a glittering career in law. She was a practicing advocate, and then she became also Chief Justice of Madras High Court. Then she joined Supreme Court and has very recently retired. She's an avid book lover, and I can't tell you how happy we are that she could come very briefly for this event, just to be associated with this panel discussion on this very important book. Thank you, ma'am.
Just one minute. Before you start.
Yes.
I mentioned Teen Deviya, but the third Devi I forgot to mention, and that is my wife. The reason being, when I wrote my first 10 articles, she was amongst the young people who read those articles and who liked those articles. Well, we were good friends, and thereafter, whatever happened has happened. So, and this time, when the book was to be, those are both the group of articles were to be brought into one book, she is the one who took interest and saw to it that the English version and the Bengali version is also done.
And you forgot her. You forgot to mention her.
Yes, and forgot to do it. So pardon me for that.
Can we see her?
She is very much here.
Mr. Elias, Deputy High Commissioner of Bangladesh in Kolkata, Justice Hemant Gokhale, my predecessor in office in the Supreme Court and my predecessor in office in the Madras High Court, he mentioned the invaluable advice that he had given me, which helped me to administer Madras High Court as its Chief Justice before my elevation to the Supreme Court. Ms. Anita Agnihotri, Mr. Biplabi Bangla, Mr. Bapaditya Rai Bishwas, who has translated the book, Mr. Kumar, Mrs. Arundhati Rai, former professor of Loreto College, and all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen present here today. It's a privilege for me to be here. আমি এখানে আজকে থাকতে পেরে ধন্য। অনেক দিন কলকাতার বাইরে আছি, 2016 সাল থেকে কলকাতার বাইরে। 2016-তে আমি বদলি হয়ে দিল্লি হাইকোর্টে চলে যাই এবং দিল্লি হাইকোর্টে 7-8 মাস থাকার পর আমি মাদ্রাস হাইকোর্টে চিফ জাস্টিস নিযুক্ত হই। 1.5 বছর মতন ওখানে ছিলাম। তারপরে সুপ্রিম কোর্ট থেকে রিটায়ার করার পর আমার ফিরে আসার প্ল্যানস ছিল, বাট ফর সার্টেন পার্সোনাল রিজনস I had to take a decision to stay in Delhi for some time more. সময় কম আছে কারণ আমার 8:30টার সময় ফ্লাইট আছে, আমার ফিরে যেতে হবে। বাংলাদেশের সাথে আমাদের অ্যাসোসিয়েশনটা খুবই ক্লোজ, কারণ অনেকেই আমাদের মধ্যে অনেকে, প্লিজ with your leave I'm speaking partly in Bengali and partly in English.
Certainly, why not?
তো আমাদের একটা ক্লোজ অ্যাসোসিয়েশন আছে, কারণ আমাদের অনেকেরই অরিজিনাল দেশ হচ্ছে গিয়ে বাংলাদেশে, এবং তার মধ্যে ছোট দিদি অরুন্ধতী রায় তো আছেই, এবং she is of special importance because her brother Shomaraditya Pal was one of the greatest lawyers in constitutional law in Calcutta High Court, and her Bodhi, Justice Ruma Pal, was also a great lawyer, a great judge of the Supreme Court, known all over the country. ওনারাও কিন্তু বাংলাদেশ থেকেই অরিজিনেট করেছেন। আমার নিজের জামাইবাবু ঢাকার ছিলেন, আমি অবশ্য কৃষ্ণনগর, our original home is in Krishnanagar, though nobody really lived there. আমার অত্যন্ত প্রিয় মেসোমশাই চট্টগ্রামের ছিলেন। আমার বড় মামিমা ঢাকার নারায়ণগঞ্জ মুরাপাড়া, ওরা মুরাপাড়ার থেকে এসেছিলেন। এরকম সব ফ্যামিলিতেই কিছু বাংলাদেশের স্মৃতি জড়িয়ে আছে, অনেকেই বাংলাদেশ থেকে এসছেন। তাই জন্যে বাংলাদেশ সম্বন্ধে আমাদের প্রচুর কৌতূহল, কি হচ্ছে ওখানে, কি হয়েছে, কি সব ডেভেলপমেন্টস হচ্ছে। it is of immense interest to us. During the মুক্তিযুদ্ধ যেটাকে বলা হয়, যখন 26শে মার্চ 1971 বাংলাদেশ স্বাধীনতা ঘোষণা করলো, আমার মনে আছে তখন আমি ক্লাস 9-এর ছাত্রী, এবং তারপরে শুরু হলো বাংলাদেশের মানুষের প্রতি প্রচুর অত্যাচার, এবং হাজারে হাজারে লোকজন বাংলাদেশ থেকে সীমা পার হয়ে তারা পশ্চিমবঙ্গে চলে আসছিলেন। অনেক শরণার্থী শিবির, রেফিউজি ক্যাম্পস খোলা হলো, এবং আমাদেরও কিছু কিছু এর মধ্যে কাজ করার সুযোগ ছিল। মানে we used to raise funds and we used to collect used clothes, medicines and other things which were far from adequate. আমি বইটা পুরোপুরিভাবে পড়তে পারিনি, কারণ বাংলা অনুবাদ যেটা, সেটা আমি আজকেই বাড়িতে দেখলাম ডেলিভার্ড হয়ে রয়েছে। ইংরেজি ট্রান্সলেশনটা আই হ্যাড দি ওকেশন টু ফ্লিপ থ্রু। অনেক ছোটবেলাকার স্মৃতি, যেটা আমার আগের স্পিকার অনিতা অগ্নিহোত্রী যেটা বলেছিলেন, সেটা স্মৃতির কোনায় কোথাও ছিল। মানে সেটাই, মানে ইটস আ ট্রিপ ডাউন memory lane, reading the book. It's partly biographical. He has narrated his own experiences through 10 articles. Partly it's a travelogue. He has written about things with which we are familiar. Bangladesh became independent, and since then, Bangladesh has progressed. In 2014, 2014 সালে আমি বাংলাদেশে যাই, ঢাকায় যাই, এবং সেখানে দেখলাম কি অনেক উন্নতি করেছে। এবং ঢাকাতে গিয়ে তো মনে হয় এটা কলকাতারই একটা পাড়া, বরঞ্চ আমাদের দিল্লিকে অন্যরকম লাগে, কিন্তু ঢাকাকে মনে হয় ওটা আমাদের নিজেদেরই জায়গা, আমাদের নিজেদেরই দেশ। তো সেই 26শে মার্চ 1971 স্বাধীনতা ঘোষণা, তারপরে মুক্তিযুদ্ধ, তারপরে জয়, এমনকি পশ্চিমবঙ্গের লোক তো তখন খুবই খুশি হয়েছিল যখন ফাইনালি দি ফ্রিডম ফাইটার্স সাকসিডেড। 4 নভেম্বর বোধহয়, সাবজেক্ট টু কারেকশন, 1972-তে কামাল হোসেনের authored Constitution of Bangladesh promulgated হয়। এবং বাংলাদেশের কনস্টিটিউশনের সঙ্গে আমাদের কনস্টিটিউশনের প্রচুর সিমিলারিটি আছে। ইট ইজ, এক পক্ষে বলা যেতে পারে, ইট ইজ অ্যান ইমপ্রুভমেন্ট অন দ্য ইন্ডিয়ান কনস্টিটিউশন। জাস্টিস হেমন্ত গোখলে একটু আগে ডিফারেন্সেসের কথা বলছিলেন, হেট্রেডের কথা বলছিলেন। বাংলাদেশের কনস্টিটিউশন আফটার ইটস অ্যামেন্ডমেন্ট ইজ আ সেকুলার কনস্টিটিউশন। It is in the name of the Allah. So there is a state religion, কিন্তু কনস্টিটিউশনের স্পেসিফিক প্রভিশন আছে যেখানে বলা আছে there can be no discrimination against Hindus, Buddhists and persons of other religions. আমাদের কনস্টিটিউশনে যেরকম একটা প্রিয়াম্বল আছে, বাংলাদেশের কনস্টিটিউশনে প্রিয়াম্বল আছে। বাংলাদেশের কনস্টিটিউশনে কিছু ফান্ডামেন্টাল রাইটস আছে। আমাদের দেশে কনস্টিটিউশনে বেসিক ফিচার বলে কিছু অরিজিনালি কনস্টিটিউশনে ছিল না, বাট দিস ওয়াজ আ কনসেপ্ট which was evolved by the Supreme Court of India through its judgment in Keshavananda Bharati, followed by various other judgments elaborated in other judgments like Minerva Mills, Rajnarayan versus Indira Gandhi, so on and so forth. Even L.S. Chandrakumar a decade or so ago. কিন্তু বাংলাদেশের কনস্টিটিউশনে কিন্তু স্পেসিফিক্যালি বলে দেওয়া আছে কি যেগুলো বেসিক ফিচার্স সেগুলো আনঅ্যামেন্ডেবল। আমাদের আমাদের জাজমেন্টগুলোতে বেসিক ফিচার্স কি তার কয়েকটি উদাহরণ দেওয়া আছে, কিন্তু কোথাও এক্সস্টিভলি বলা নেই হোয়াট আর দ্য বেসিক ফিচার্স। কিন্তু বাংলাদেশ সংবিধানে কিন্তু কোন কোন প্রভিশনগুলো হলো বেসিক ফিচার, কোন কোন প্রভিশনগুলো আনঅ্যামেন্ডেবল সেটা কিন্তু বলা আছে। আমার এখানে আসতে মানে I very gladly agreed to come here on this occasion. I don't know if Justice Gokhale is probably aware. There is now a pact between the government of Bangladesh and the government of India. And under this pact, judicial officers from Bangladesh come to the National Judicial Academy in Bhopal for judicial training. And since my retirement, every month I've been going to the National Judicial Academy at Bhopal to address the trainees, the judicial officers from Bangladesh. And in fact, I was there last week, and I will be there again on 13th March when the next batch of students come to the next batch of judicial officers, the trainees, come to the National Judicial Academy. I was quite thrilled when there was an occasion where there was a training program in Singapore, in the Civil Services College, Singapore. I was nominated to the training program by the then Chief Justice of India, and there were judges from the High Court Division of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh. Justice Syed Refat Ahmed was representing Bangladesh. There was a contest, a group discussion in which his group topped, and the group headed by me was the runner-up. I am absolutely privileged to be here. I wish I could have stayed for the discussions, but knowing the Calcutta traffic and the way I got held up, I tender my apology to you for the delay. It was one of the road rages very near my house, where my driver did not even touch the scooter. The scooter came in front of the car, created a ruckus, and detained me for about 12 to 15 minutes out there. I apologize to you. I thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to be here on this occasion, and I hope our neighbor, the country, progresses, improves further. I also have an association with the Bangladesh High Commission in Kolkata. Many, many years ago, when I was a student, আমি একটি বাচ্চাকে পড়াতাম। আপনাদের কালচারাল অ্যাটাশে ছিলেন মিস্টার শাফি। মিস্টার শাফির মেয়েকে আমি ইংরেজি পড়াতাম। তো আমি আর সময় নেব না, এনারা বই নিয়ে আলোচনা করবেন। It is a pity that I have to leave. Please excuse me. Thank you.
We just say bye to Justice Indira Banerjee for 2 minutes and then we resume again. Okay, so we resume the session once again. May I now request Mr. Andalib Elias, our Deputy High Commissioner of Bangladesh in Kolkata. I said our because he's as much of Kolkata as he is of Bangladesh. And the young career diplomat, I welcome him to the session also, and I request him to speak, and also he can pick up threads from the previous speakers' references. And in the end, but last but not the least, is Bappaditto, translator of the book. He will speak and also will read in Bengali from the book. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon. Oh, it's evening, right? Sorry, apologies. Good evening. Thank you for pointing that out, ma'am. Well, I was a bit late in coming here. My apologies for that. And thank you so much, sir, Justice Hemant Gokhale, for inviting me to this event. Well, first of all, আমিও প্রথমে কিছুটা, স্যার আপনার উইথ ইউর পারমিশন কিছুটা আমি বাংলায় বলবো, কিছুটা ইংরেজিতে বলবো আপনাদের সবার অনুমতি নিয়ে। আমাদের জন্য, বাঙালিদের জন্য, বাংলাদেশিদের জন্য এটা অসম্ভব গুরুত্বের এবং আবেগের একটি মাস ফেব্রুয়ারি। ফেব্রুয়ারি আমাদের কাছে ভাষার মাস, ফেব্রুয়ারি আমাদের কাছে আমাদের আত্মমর্যাদার মাস, এবং ফেব্রুয়ারিতে আমরা আমাদের স্বাধীনতা যে চেতনা, আমাদের বাংলাদেশের জাতির পিতা বঙ্গবন্ধু শেখ মুজিবুর রহমান, তার নেতৃত্বে ভাষা আন্দোলনের মধ্য দিয়ে আমাদের যে আন্দোলনটি শুরু হয়, যে সংগ্রামটি শুরু হয়, সেটি চূড়ান্ত লক্ষ্য, চূড়ান্ত অর্জন হয় 1971 সালে আমাদের স্বাধীনতা অর্জনের মধ্য দিয়ে। যে কারণে আমাদের প্রত্যেকের কাছে ফেব্রুয়ারি আমাদের কাছে আমাদের সবচেয়ে বড় আবেগের নাম, আমাদের কাছে ফেব্রুয়ারি। তাই সবাইকে ফেব্রুয়ারির শুভেচ্ছা। আমি এই যে বইটি নিয়ে আজকে কথা বলছি, আমার বিপ্লবী বাংলা, সোনার বাংলা, এটি আমাদের জন্য অসম্ভব আবেগের একটি নাম। সোনার বাংলা একটি শব্দ যেটিকে বোধহয় আমরা প্রত্যেকটি বাংলাদেশি যেটিকে হৃদয়ে ধারণ করে। আমাদের জাতীয় সঙ্গীত আপনারা জানেন সবাই এখানে, যে বাংলাদেশ জাতীয় সঙ্গীত হচ্ছে রবীন্দ্রনাথের সোনার বাংলা। বঙ্গবন্ধু যে স্বপ্ন দেখেছিলেন একটি দেশের, সে দেশটি ছিল সোনার বাংলা। এবং তিনি সোনার বাংলা বলতে একটি ভূখণ্ডকে বোঝাতেন না, সোনার বাংলা বলতে একটি জনসম্পদকে বোঝাতেন না, সোনার বাংলা বলতে তিনি বোঝাতেন একটি সামাজিক পরিবেশকে, এবং তিনি নিজেই সেটিকে সংজ্ঞায়িত করেছিলেন। তার সংজ্ঞায় সোনার বাংলা ছিল একটি পরিবেশ যেখানে কোনো ক্ষুধা থাকবে না, কোনো দারিদ্র্য থাকবে না, কোনো শোষণ থাকবে না, কোনো বঞ্চনা থাকবে না, যেখানে থাকবে সাম্য, যেখানে থাকবে সমৃদ্ধি। সেটি ছিল তার ভাষায় সোনার বাংলা। এবং তার উদ্দেশ্য ছিল, তার স্বপ্ন ছিল যে বাংলাদেশকে একদিন আমরা সোনার বাংলায় রূপান্তরিত করব। সো সোনার বাংলা is basically a journey. It's not something very fixed that we have achieved it. No, we are in the process of achieving Sonar Bangla. That's the journey that we have been undertaking, and we are happy. Bangladesh is happy that we believe we are on the right path of achieving the journey. I had to travel to Bangladesh 3-4 days ago. So I couldn't, unfortunately, read the Bangla version of it, although I had got the PDF version, but I couldn't take a printout of that. And but what I could do, I had to travel to Medinipur today. So I started early morning. It was a It was a 2.5 hours journey to Medinipur, and then from there I came back here, another 2.5 hours. So 5 hours I used that time, and I completed the book on my way. It's a fascinating book. It's very interesting, more interesting for a Bangladeshi who was born after liberation. So it's very interesting for me to read a person's who is comparing, in a sense, between the two Bengals, between Bengal in 1971 and Bengal in 2021 or 2020, to be exact here. Before going into the details, I'll just very two minor corrections for Mr. Bapadi to take note of. There are two typos, I would say.
There are some typos.
But
yes.
regarding these two, since these are related to dates, so it may create some confusions. In page 35, it says about, it mentions the date 21st of March, which I believe should be 21st of May 1971. That's one, in the Bangla version. And also, in page 115, it mentions 17th of November 2020, which I believe should be 17th of March 2020. These are the two points that I would just like to flag here, because otherwise...
Which page is this? Second one?
Second one is page 115, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 115, para number 2. It says 17th November 2020. First sentence of...
Okay, 17th November 2020.
That should be 17th of March 2020.
Ravindra Kuthibari.
So you visited that in March 2020, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I'll just check this in.
Okay. So these are the two minor points. Now regarding the book itself, since I have just read it fresh, so I can talk about it probably. It's a great honor for us that Justice Gokhale has first of all, we are deeply honored that he was one of those young people who directly helped Bangladeshis in 1971. We are really grateful to you, sir, for that. We are grateful to the entire India, the entire Indian population, Indian government, and of course Indian armed forces for the enormous support and cooperation that they provided to us, to the Bangladeshis in our struggle for liberation in 1971. And since then, these two countries have been having a wonderful relationship. Of course, in relationships, there are ups, there are downs, but we are very close neighbors. And the relationship that we have is based on trust, and I say mutual respect. The present two prime ministers of Bangladesh and India, they have very good relations between them, which help us, the bureaucrats, the diplomats, to have very concrete and successful steps forward. In the same manner, our Prime Minister and the Honorable Chief Minister of West Bengal, they are very close personally, and that helps me as the Deputy High Commissioner of Kolkata to work efficiently here. So it really makes us happy when we read a book like this, Biplabi Bangla, Sonar Bangla, that Justice Gokhale has written so eloquently. Of course, I have not read the original version in Marathi. But the Bengali version, I must really compliment Mr. Bapadita Rai Bishwash for a very eloquent Bangla amra jeta boli jhorjhore, a very smooth flow of language. It's a very fast read. I mean, once you start this book, you cannot stop. As simple as that. It's one of those unputdownable books. The 20 there are 20 articles in total, right? The 20 articles that are there, they deal with different angles, different aspects, which I personally do not always agree with, but it's always interesting to learn about different angles, which helps us to maybe go into retrospect and to think about it, to see if there is any course correction needed or if there is any necessary to engage with others. That's very important. I will put on one or two caveats here. The foreword by late Mr. Madhav Gorbole, which is very important for this particular book. He has given a wonderful foreword here and the perspective of it. I would again maybe I'm not sure if I should talk about a person who is not with us anymore, but just to flag that he has mentioned something about about continuous migration from Bangladesh to India. That has been mentioned in the foreword, which I must put on record here, that the version that is put here is not correct at all. There has never been, except in 1971, when there was a genocide going on in Bangladesh. Yes, people migrated to India for saving their lives, and we are eternally grateful to India for saving our lives at that time. But except that period, there has not been continuous migration from Bangladesh to India. It had not happened before. It is not happening now. We do not see any reason why it should happen. But it mentions in the foreword of this book that there was continuous migration from Bangladesh to India, and it says the word continuous, which we do not agree with. So that's one point that I thought I should mention here to be clarified, because otherwise the readers, when they will read this book, they may have a wrong concept about this whole issue. Now, regarding the book itself, Justice Gokhale mentioned a couple of points about the Constitution. Justice Indira Banerjee also raised those points very clearly. Regarding the issue of secularism, again, the book is very clear on this issue, and I think I should again flag this issue. Bangladesh is a Muslim majority secular country. We have to understand it very clearly. Bangladesh is a Muslim majority country, but it is not an Islamic country at all. It's a secular country with full protection of every single citizen. Does not matter what his race, gender, creed is completely protected by the Constitution. And that Constitution, that part of the Constitution is completely unamendable, as Justice Banerjee very clearly said. So every single person in Bangladesh is protected under that. In addition to that, all the three pillars of the state, the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary, all three are extremely powerful, completely independent of each other, completely under the control of the Constitution. They very strongly ensure, differently and together, that the rights of everyone is protected under the Constitution. The Prime Minister herself, the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, the able daughter of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, she has literally committed her life to the welfare and betterment of the people of Bangladesh. There has been, time and again, sporadic incidences of extremism in Bangladesh, like any other country of this world. Bangladesh has seen sporadic individual incidences of extremism, but again, those incidences have been addressed very firmly. That has been mentioned in the book, by the way. Justice Gokhale mentions about that there has been incidents, and immediately the government takes firm action, quick, firm, decisive action under the Constitution. On the issue of the Hindu law reform, Justice Gokhale mentioned about it. I can say that definitely, well, as a diplomat, I can of course always say that I'll get back to my capital, I'll convey the message to the capital, and I will do that. that I can tell you that after this event, when I go back to my office, I'll definitely, it's a part of our job that we send a report to the capital. There I'll mention it clearly. So at the same time, let me assure you that my Prime Minister is, as I said, is very much aware and concerned, and she is very serious about the rights of everyone, particularly, sir, as you mentioned, the rights of women. I mean, women empowerment and women engagement in all strata of life has been the sole contribution of the Prime Minister herself. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, in the global indices of women empowerment, Bangladesh is among the top 6 or 7 countries, where I don't think there is any other country from South Asia in that list. The other 6 are most probably from the Nordic countries. The rights of Hindu women definitely, it's on the radar of the government, and the government will work on it. At the same time, considering on the ground realities and the impacts that will have on the society, that always has to be taken care when government works on any particular case. Finally, just the last point about the last point is about the development. Justice Gokhale mentioned about the development of Bangladesh. Yes, we are proud, we're happy that Bangladesh is developing at a quite fast pace. At the same time, the government is very cautious that this development should not be at the cost of the environment, should not be at the cost of the society. In fact, Bangladesh was one of the main proponents regarding the concept of sustainable development. I'm sure you're aware that the development previously was thought only on the issue of economic development. Then there was this hue and cry about how to protect the environment, the climate, if you go for for development only. And then came this proponent of this idea of sustainable development, where we ensured that the 3 pillars are on the same, are balanced: the economic pillar, the social pillar, and the environment pillar. This concept was basically, Bangladesh was one of the key proponents that we should have this sustainable development, যেটাকে আমরা বাংলায় বলি টেকসই উন্নয়ন. And Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was one of the pioneers to propose this issue of sustainable development. So Bangladesh is developing, but not at the cost of environment, not at the cost of the society. So we are confident and we are hopeful that we can develop together, because sustainable development also means that you develop with everyone. If there is disbalanced development, then there will be grievances. So sustainable development not only in the country, it's in the region. So we are a strong proponent of regional development. We are working together very closely with India on this issue, not only with India, with all our neighbors on this issue of a harmonized, sustainable, win-win situation kind of development. So I can assure you, Justice Gokhale, that your Biplabi Bangla is truly on the right path to become the Sonar Bangla in the coming days. Thank you everyone for listening to me, for giving me the time. Joy Bangla. May Bangladesh India friendship live forever.
Very nice. It was so enlightening listening to Mr. Antali Bilias, and he responded essentially to the issues raised in the book in a way which only he can do, probably. I am thankful to him. Of course, we were going to go through the book once again, because it was brought out during Kolkata Book Fair under a lot of pressure and repeated checking of proof. Even then, some errors must have remained. Very apologetic about that, but then we will be, since more copies will be coming, we'll get this corrected, and once again, I'm sure Abhijit, you will get this corrected and get the corrected copy out soon. Now we come to our translator of the book, because of whom this discussion today and the book itself has been made possible, Bapaditya Roy Bishash. I briefly introduce him. He is a poet. He is he's an editorial board of magazines. He has 3 books of poetry to his credit. But he's also on the other side of, like the world which a poet doesn't represent. Like he is a graduate in economics and he is a management graduate. So he has a successful career as a management professional also. Despite that, we are glad that he writes in Bengali, he translates, and he loves poetry, which is very flattering for all of us poets. So Bapaditya has translated from the English book into Bengali, and I must tell you that his Bengali, I read some part of it as he was translating. It is very good. We have a Kolkata Translators Forum, and I can see 2 of the members, Krishna Boshak and Shamol Bhattacharya, present here. Bapaditya also is a member, and they helped us to kind of find him out. But I would say that the quality of translation that has come out, it almost reads like an original Bengali book. This is very good. This is very good, and I'm sure all of you would actually get the book and read it before or after we correct whatever little few mistakes are there. I request Bapaditya to speak now, and he can talk about his translation experiences, and also he will read briefly a few paragraphs from the book just to give you a feel of the language. Thank you.
Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Well, it is very flattering to actually get a reader's opinion about such a special book from the Deputy High Commissioner of Bangladesh. A complete reader's opinion who has actually finished the book in flat 5 hours and says that it is unputdownable. So that's really flattering, sir. So let me take you through my opinion of the book, my experiences, and then I'll read a few excerpts from the Bengali translation of the book. Basically, there's something very epic, something very cinematic about this book. A student of law, merely 21, 22 years, responding to his call of the soul, and coming down to this cultural capital of the country in the most turbulent period of Bengal's history as far as post-independent India is concerned. Going through a gamut of experiences, which his young but mature mind is quick to analyze impartially and objectively. Experiencing the heart-wrenching doldrums that accompany the birth of a nation. A nation which, thanks to Sir Radcliffe's knives, had already been forcefully cleaved from the left portion of the Indian subcontinent's chest. And again, returning to it after half a century to witness its confident strides on the path of inclusivity-induced development. This is what epic movies are made of. When the proposal to translate such a book in Bangla, the language of the soil, where it all occurred, came to me, I sort of cocked up my ears and sat up on the chair. I quite feline, you see. I mean, like one of those bloodthirsty leopards, okay, who know, okay, where exactly the feast is going to come from. I started going through the articles, and before long, I found that justice had actually tucked me into a time machine. And with your permission, sir, I use the justice word as a pun over here. A pun is intended. Okay. So, cushion and seat belts et al. All in place. And then the fun started. Chapter after chapter I went through, and the stark reality portrayed over there started rolling in my mind movie stills. Movie stills from, say, Satyajit Ray's Pratidwandi and Jon Aranya from Ritik Ghatak's Meghe Dhaka Tara, Subarnarekha, Mrinal Sen's interview, Ekdin Pratidin, Tapan Sinha's Ekhoni, which Sir has mentioned in his book. Yes. And my memory also started leafing through pages of Sunil Gangopadhyay's Purbo Poshchim, Somoresh Mujumdar's Kalbela, Kushan Singh's A Train to Pakistan, Bapsi Sidhwa's Ice Candy Man, Salman Rushdie, Rohington Mistry, Anita Desai, Ismat Chugtai, Gitanjali Shri, and of course, The Last Darwan also, one of those quintessential stories which is included in, The Interpreter of Maladies, her Pulitzer-winning work, where that old woman, that Buri Ma, gets taunted by apartment owners saying that, oh, over there, all of you were zamindars. Tomra shobai to jomidar. Tomader odike shobar jomidari chilo. We are very much familiar, people who have come down from East Bengal, we are very much familiar with this particular set of words. So time hopped, skipped, and jumped to stories of exodus, those of forced migration, stories that were shared by immediate ancestors in the mellowed glow of hurricane lamps, thanks to the nostalgia of those 80s painstakingly power cuts, okay, that we had. And now I'll share with you a personal experience which occurred during my school days. It suddenly occurred that a teenage myself and my classmates had to wait an extra 13 days to write our last paper for the pre-board selection exams at the secondary level. The subject was history. And this was an inordinately obnoxious amount of time to mug up those 16-mark long answers. A history exam, originally scheduled for 7th of December, finally occurred on 20th of December, when half of the senior school playing ground on Park Street was chock-a-block with caterpillars and armored vehicles. No prizes for guessing the year. It was 1992. This book made me look up from its pages, stare at nothing, and remember that the ultimate exodus of the remaining part of my paternal family occurred from Bangladeshi soil in 1993. For that, which was that particular page which made me look up from the book and made me stare blank into the wall? I'll just read that in Bengali. Page 131. দেশভাগের পর কিন্তু এই পরিস্থিতির আমূল পরিবর্তন ঘটে যায়। সেই সময় পূর্ববঙ্গের মোট জনসংখ্যার প্রায় 30% ছিল হিন্দু ধর্মাবলম্বী। পাকিস্তানের শাসনকালে জামাতে ইসলামীর ক্রিয়াকলাপের দরুন এই সংখ্যাটি 18% নেমে আসে। 1992 সালে বাবরি মসজিদ ধ্বংসের পর বাংলাদেশের বেশ কিছু মন্দির আক্রান্ত হয় আর শয়ে শয়ে হিন্দু ধর্মাবলম্বীরা ভারতে চলে আসেন। বর্তমানে বাংলাদেশে হিন্দু ধর্মাবলম্বীর সংখ্যা শতাংশের হিসেবে নেমে দাঁড়িয়েছে 9, তার সঙ্গে যদি বৌদ্ধ আর খ্রিস্ট ধর্মাবলম্বীর সংখ্যা যোগ করি, সংখ্যালঘুর সংখ্যাটা দাঁড়ায় পুরো জনসংখ্যার 10 থেকে 11%। Now, in the second part of Sonar Bangla, okay, before we proceed to the second part of Sonar Bangla, I'm sorry, but I think you should continue reading because
Yes.
there will be a misconception.
Okay.
If you stop there,
Mhm.
there will be misconception.
Okay, okay.
Actually, you read the whole paragraph.
Sure.
131. দেখা হলো ঢাকার সমাজকর্মী শিরিন হকের সঙ্গে। That
আচ্ছা
part.
আচ্ছা
Please aid.
দেখা হলো ঢাকার সমাজকর্মী শিরিন হকের সঙ্গে, যিনি আবার আমাদের পুনা নিবাসী বন্ধু মনীষা গুপ্তের পরিচিত। শিরিন জানালেন, ইয়েস স্যার, আই নো, শিরিন জানালেন শেখ হাসিনা ক্ষমতায় আসার পর সংখ্যালঘুদের জন্য নিরাপত্তার সুবন্দোবস্ত করা হয়েছে। তবে তার মতে সাম্প্রদায়িক সংঘর্ষ মাঝে মাঝে যে ঘটে না এমন নয়, সেক্ষেত্রে হিন্দুদের সামনে দ্বিতীয় পথটি খোলা থাকে, দাঙ্গা বাঁধলে দেশান্তরী হয়ে ভারতে চলে যাওয়া। Now, this is not a problem of any particular nation. This, as Sir has rightly highlighted,
this is a problem across the world. So we need somebody at the top, at the helm of affairs, who'd be taking an inclusive view of the entire problem and take adequate steps such that such aberrations are curbed with a steady hand. And of course, we know that that is being done. In the second part, Sonar Bangla, apart from elaborating on visits to reputed places that bear memories of famous personalities, Justice Gokhale, he skillfully crafts the picture of a nation which, despite its stumblings and hiccups, its cabals and communities, has managed to knit for itself a tapestry of economic and social cohesiveness that impresses visitors and critics alike. As a translator, it was indeed a delectable experience to interpret the birth of a nation and that of a mature pair of eyes that celebrate their tryst with destiny together. Now I'll take your permission to read a few parts which Justice Gokhale had also highlighted during his speech. Namely, he had highlighted plight of tea garden workers. He had highlighted his experience with Naxals. He had highlighted that part about our favorite actress Suchitra Sen. And before that, I'll just take you through Bangladesh's Mukti Juddha history. Okay. Because that actually elaborates, highlights the grit of a race which fought tooth and nail. No matter what happened to them, what happened to the families, their entire focus was in complete liberation. And this spark actually started from a sentiment on language, a language which had to be given the liberty of expression, free and lucid expression. Now, before I go on to those parts, there's an amusing take about when the justice, along with his friends, has come down to Kolkata, and he is interacting with Bangalis over here, Bengalis. Okay, and let us go straight away to the text. কলকাতায় দুদিন কাটানোর পর আমরা বনগাঁয়ে এলাম। সেখানে উদ্বাস্তু শিবিরে দিন তিনেক কাজ করে আবার কলকাতায় ফিরলাম 4 দিনের জন্য। তারপর আমার বাকি সঙ্গীরা বম্বে ফিরে গেলেন। আমি 8-10 দিন ধরে উত্তরবঙ্গের জলপাইগুড়ি প্রভৃতি অঞ্চল ঘুরে বেড়ানোর পর ফেরার পথে আবার 4-5 দিনের জন্য কলকাতার আতিথ্য গ্রহণ করলাম। কেমন ছিল এই কলকাতার রূপ, আমার এই তিনবারের নগরবাসের রূপ? আমি যা কিছু দেখেছি বা অনুভব করেছি, এই মহানগরীর সংকট এবং যুব সমাজের তার প্রতিকারের আয়োজন বিষয়ে তা এবার নিজের মতো করে এখানে ব্যক্ত করব। কিন্তু এটা করায় একটা সমস্যা আছে। আমার কলকাতা কেন্দ্রিক অভিজ্ঞতা কি বাংলার অন্যান্য অঞ্চলের থেকে লাভ করা অভিজ্ঞতার থেকে আলাদা? আমার বিশ্বাস একটা পর্যায়ের পরে সেভাবে দেখাটা আর সম্ভব নয়। কলকাতা শহরটা ঠিক বম্বের মতো নয়। মহারাষ্ট্রের রাজধানী হওয়া সত্ত্বেও বম্বে যেন নামে মাত্রই মহারাষ্ট্রের রাজধানী। আশ্চর্যজনকভাবে এবং বিচিত্র রূপে মহারাষ্ট্রের অন্যান্য অংশের থেকে অনেক ব্যাপারেই আলাদা। উল্টো দিকে কলকাতা যে শুধুমাত্র পশ্চিমবঙ্গের রাজধানী তা নয়, সেই রাজ্যের এক অবিচ্ছেদ্য মজ্জাগত অংশ। পশ্চিমবঙ্গের বাকি অংশের সঙ্গে তার ঐকান্তিক যোগাযোগ সর্বতোভাবে উপস্থিত। বাংলার দুঃখ বেদনায় সে ব্যথার অশ্রুমোচন করে, তার ক্রোধে সেও উন্মত্ত হয়ে ওঠে। বম্বের মতো উন্নাসিক বা দিল্লির মতো কৌশলী সে নয়। তার ক্রোধ সময় সময় প্রাণঘাতীয় হয়ে উঠতে পারে, তবু সে অনেক বেশি স্বচ্ছ ও খোলা মনের, অনেক বেশি প্রাণবন্ত। এই শহরের রাগী রাগী ভাব আর বামমনস্ক চরমপন্থা অঙ্গাঙ্গীভাবে জড়িয়ে থাকে বাঙালির ক্ষুরধার উন্নাসিকতার সঙ্গে, আর তা চোখেও পড়ে একই সঙ্গে। এতে ইন্ধন যোগাচ্ছে বেঙ্গল ন্যাশনাল ভলান্টিয়ার পার্টি বিএনভিপি, আমাদের শিবসেনারই বঙ্গীয় সংস্করণ, যারা তাদের স্লোগানে স্লোগানে দেওয়াল রঞ্জিত করে রেখেছে, কিন্তু যেহেতু বামপন্থীরা বিশেষত মার্ক্সবাদীরাও এই বাঙালি অস্মিতার ধারক হয়ে উঠেছে, বিএনভিপির সীমাবদ্ধতাটা ইতিমধ্যেই বেশ স্পষ্ট হয়ে উঠেছে। এছাড়াও জলপাইগুড়ির পথে পরিচয় হয়েছিল জনৈক উৎপল সরকারের সঙ্গে। নাও কামস দ্য অ্যামিউজিং পার্ট। কর্মসূত্রে ডাক্তার এই ভদ্রলোকের গন্তব্য মালদা। তিনি আমায় এহেন প্রশ্নবাণে জর্জরিত করে তুললেন, অবাঙালিরা দেখি কর্মসূত্রে কলকাতায় থাকে, বাঙালিরাও কি অন্যান্য রাজ্যে চাকরির সুযোগ পায়? এই চা বাগানের মালিক আর মারোয়ারি ব্যবসাদারদের অর্জিত মুনাফা কোথায় যায়? আপনারা যে অন্যান্য প্রদেশ থেকে এসে কলকাতায় বসবাস করেন, বাঙালিদের সঙ্গে মেলামেশা করেন না কেন? ইত্যাদি প্রশ্নের পিঠে প্রশ্ন। তবে জঙ্গি শটটুকু বাদ দিলে আমার মনে হয়েছিল কিছু কিছু প্রশ্নে অন্তত সৎ জিজ্ঞাসাটুকু আছে। যেমন ধরুন, অন্যান্য প্রদেশ থেকে যারা আসেন তারা তাদের আঞ্চলিক বিশেষত্বটুকুকে বেশি প্রাধান্য না দিয়ে যেন স্থানীয় মানুষের সঙ্গে মেলামেশা করেন। এটা বেশ সরল একটি পরামর্শ, যা সত্যি কথা বলতে কি অনেক মনোমালিন্যই দূর করে দিতে পারে, অথচ বেশিরভাগ ক্ষেত্রেই তা ঘটে উঠতে দেখা যায় না। Just think of the voice that is actually making this conjecture. It's the voice of a 22-year-old. Just see the objectivity that is behind that voice. Now let me proceed to the plight of the tea garden workers. সন্ধেবেলা আগের রাতের বৃষ্টিতে জমা কাদা ভেঙে, পৃষ্ঠা 56, পেজ নাম্বার 56। সন্ধেবেলা আগের রাতের বৃষ্টিতে জমা কাদা ভেঙে, আচ্ছা ভালো লাগছে তো, আমি বোর করছি না তো, বলবো? আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে। সন্ধেবেলা আগের রাতের বৃষ্টিতে জমা কাদা ভেঙে রণবাহাদুরের আস্তানায় গেলাম। অন্ধকার শ্রমিক লাইনের ভেতর দিয়ে গিয়ে পৌঁছলাম। বিদ্যুৎ নেই। নেপালি মহিলারা তাদের রোজকার প্রয়োজনীয় কেনাকাটি সারছেন ট্রেড ইউনিয়নের করে দেওয়া স্টোরের লণ্ঠনের আলোয়। তাদের প্রচলিত সাজ পোশাক সহজেই দৃষ্টি আকর্ষণ করে। শ্রমিকদের মধ্যে বাঙালিরা সংখ্যায় অল্পই। 7% এসেছে বিহারের ছোটনাগপুর অঞ্চল থেকে, আর 30% নেপালি। বিহারিরা দেখলাম তামাকু সেবনে রত, স্মোকিং টোব্যাকো। রণবাহাদুরের থেকে জানলাম অধিকাংশ পুরুষই দিনের শেষে সস্তা দিশি মদে পরিত্রাণ খোঁজে, কারণ প্রতিকূল পরিবেশে উদয়াস্ত খাটুনির পর ওটুকু না হলে তাদের কাহিল দশা কাটে না। তাছাড়া রোজের মজুরি বলতে নামমাত্র 2.5 টাকায় পরিবারের দেখভাল করা কার্যত অসম্ভব। এখানে গড় আয়ুর মেয়াদ মেরে কেটে 50 বছর। 60% বেশি শ্রমিক যক্ষ্মায় আক্রান্ত হন। কলোনির পরিবেশ শোচনীয়। কাঠের তক্তা মারা দেয়াল, ছাদ চুঁইয়ে জল পড়ছে। 15 মাইলের মধ্যে কোনো হাসপাতাল নেই। বাগানে একটাই মাত্র হাতুড়ে ডাক্তার, যার প্রকৃত পরিচয় ম্যাট্রিক পাশ না করা কম্পাউন্ডার। জমিদারবাবুর সঙ্গে আত্মীয়তা সূত্রেই তারই কাজটি পাওয়া। স্বাস্থ্যবিধি, শৌচ নিকাশি ব্যবস্থা, জলের কল কিচ্ছুটি নেই। এই সেদিন অবধি বাচ্চাদের জন্য কোনো স্কুলও ছিল না। সম্প্রতি পাশের গ্রামে একটি হিন্দি মাধ্যম ও একটি বাংলা মাধ্যম স্কুল চালু হয়েছে। 100টি ঘর প্রতি একটি মাত্র কল ছিল। তাতে শুধুমাত্র সকালের দিকে জল পাওয়া যেত। কোনো শৌচালয় ছিল না। We are all talking about North Bengal, okay, not Bangladesh, okay. কোনো শৌচালয় ছিল না। সকালে সূর্য ওঠার আগেই প্রাপ্তবয়স্ক মানুষদের প্রাতঃকৃত সেরে নিতে হতো। রণবাহাদুর মদে চুর হয়েছিল। হয়তো সে কারণেই শরীৎ পাশে থাকা সত্ত্বেও, শরীৎ is the nephew of the tea garden owner, nephew and the friend of Justice Gokhale, of the tea garden owner, where Justice Gokhale and his friends have paid a visit. Okay, so Sarit is on the employer class, and Ran Bahadur is on the employee class. Okay, just a little clarification to get things right. আমার সঙ্গে তার মন খুলে কথা বলতে কোনো অসুবিধেই হচ্ছিল না। যখন তার ঘরটা আমাদের দেখালো, বুঝলাম কি করুণ দৈন্যের ভিতর তাদের দিন কাটে। 2টো খাটিয়া, ডাঁই করা কটা কাপড় জামা আর কটা মাত্র বাসন, এই তার যাবতীয় সম্পত্তি। এত সত্ত্বেও জোড়াজুড়ি করে কাছের এক হোটেল থেকে আমাদের জন্য চা নিয়ে এলো। তার ছোট ছোট শিশুদের চোখের সামনে সেই চায়ে চুমুক দেওয়া আমার পক্ষে সম্ভব হলো না। তার অর্ধনগ্ন বাচ্চাটিকে দিয়ে দিলাম। রণবাহাদুর ডুকরে কাঁদতে কাঁদতে বলল, হুজুর, আমার আপনার বয়সী একটি ছেলে আছে। সে আসামে কাজ করে, কিন্তু আমাকে একটি পয়সাও পাঠায় না। আমার নেশাটুকুও এখানে কাবুলিওয়ালার থেকে ধারকর্য করে চালাতে হয়। আর সেখানে বসে থাকা আমাদের সম্ভব হলো না। Next, let me proceed to Sir's experience with Naxalites.
আমাদের বোধহয় একটু শর্ট এন্ড করলে ভালো হয়, কারণ
Okay, okay.
কিছু ভিউ
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা,
Responses
ঠিক আছে,
আছে।
এটার পরেই আমি র্যাপ আপ করে ফেলবো।
মেবি 2-3 মিনিটস।
Sure, sure. Acha, here comes the context of a political worker who had been killed by the Naxalites, and Sir and his friends are making a visit to that particular house. Okay, his widow is there. ইতিমধ্যেই ননিদার বিধবা স্ত্রী এসে দরজা খুললেন। আমরা বাড়ির ভেতর প্রবেশ করলাম। বেশিক্ষণ বসা সম্ভব ছিল না, কিন্তু এই স্বল্প সময়েই যেটুকু শুনলাম তা ভয়াবহ। ননিদার স্ত্রীর বয়স 30-এর আশেপাশে, পরনে একটি সাধারণ শাড়ি, গায়ে কোনো গয়না নেই, ছিপছিপে চেহারা, ভাস্বর মুখশ্রী। ঘরের দেয়ালে 3টি ছবি টাঙানো আছে, মা কালী, সুভাষচন্দ্র বসু এবং ননিদার। ননিদাকে যখন খুন করা হলো, তার মা তখন বাড়িতেই। ফলে ভদ্রমহিলা মানসিক বিকারগ্রস্ত হয়ে পড়েন। ননিদার একটি মাত্র ছেলে, তার ম্যাট্রিক পরীক্ষায় বসার কথা ছিল। এখন তার স্কুল তাকে বিদায়ী শংসাপত্রটিও দিতে নারাজ, কারণ 6 মাসের মাইনে বাকি পড়ে আছে। এদিকে চাকরি জোগাড় করাও তার পক্ষে সম্ভব হয়ে উঠছে না, কারণ প্রয়োজনীয় শংসাপত্রটি তার হাতে নেই। সে যত্রতত্র ছুটে বেড়াচ্ছে যে কোনো একটা চাকরির জন্য। ননিদার স্ত্রী বিড়ি বেঁধে দিনে 4 আনা আয় করেন, বাড়িতে নামমাত্র পোশাক আর বাসনকোসন। তার অন্য যে শাড়িটি, সেটি মেঝেতে পেতে দিলেন আমাদের বসবার জন্য। শান্ত নির্লিপ্তভাবে আমাদের সব কথা বলে যাচ্ছেন, চোখে অশ্রুর চিহ্ন মাত্র নেই। স্বামী খুন হয়ে যাওয়ার পরে তার বন্ধুজনেরাও আতঙ্কে তার সঙ্গে দেখা সাক্ষাৎ করতে আসেন না আর। পার্টি থেকে কিছু চাঁদা পরিবারের হাতে তুলে দেওয়া হয়েছিল, কিন্তু মুদির দোকানের ধার মেটাতেই তা খরচ হয়ে গেছে। জানলাম তার সামান্য রোজগারটুকুতে এই পরিবারে এখন একবেলা হাঁড়ি চড়ে। Now let us proceed to the independence part, to the মুক্তিযুদ্ধ part.
Mr. Elias is to leave at 7:15.
7:15?
So we thought we could take some questions before he leaves.
Okay, sure.
তুমি আর 2-3 মিনিটে কনক্লুড করে দাও।
2-3
রিডিং আর
মিনিট,
করো
হ্যাঁ।
না, ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ
ঠিক
টু
আছে।
সে সামথিং।
Fine. Okay, Suchitra Sen.
হ্যাঁ,
Fine.
ঠিক আছে, ওটা।
Okay, sir had displayed to you a very rare picture where actually a movement took place to restore the house of Suchitra Sen. That is page number 126, 126. সুচিত্রা সেনের পৈতৃক ভিটে বাড়িটি পাবনার গোপালপুরে অবস্থিত। তার পরিবার কলকাতায় চলে যাওয়ার পর এই বাড়িটি বহু বছর ধরেই তালাবন্ধ ছিল। পরবর্তী ঘটনাপ্রবাহ সম্বন্ধে যেটুকু জানলাম তা চমকপ্রদ। জামাতে ইসলামী সমর্থিত ইমাম গজনী ট্রাস্ট নামে একটি সংগঠন কিছুদিনের জন্য বলপূর্বক এই বাড়িটির দখল নেয়। এখানে তারা একটি মাদ্রাসা চালু করে এবং সেটা করার সময় বাড়িটি কিছুটা ক্ষতিগ্রস্তও হয়। বাড়িটির লাগোয়া কিছু অবৈধ দোকানপাটও গড়ে ওঠে। পাবনা ও বাংলাদেশের সংস্কৃতিমনস্ক মানুষ এই জবরদখলকে ভালোভাবে নেননি। সুচিত্রা সেন ভারতের মতোই বাংলাদেশেও সমান জনপ্রিয়। সিভিল সোসাইটির সদস্যরা এই জবরদখলের বিরুদ্ধে প্রতিবাদে সোচ্চার হয়ে ওঠেন। জনৈক জাকির হোসেনের নেতৃত্বে সুচিত্রা সেন চলচ্চিত্র সংসদ নামে একটি সংগঠন এই আন্দোলনে মুখ্য ভূমিকা পালন করে। সরকারের সদর দপ্তর পর্যন্ত এই প্রতিবাদের ঢেউ পৌঁছয়। জামাতে ইসলামীর মতো ক্ষমতাবান দলের বিরুদ্ধে প্রতিবাদ সংগঠিত করাটা সহজ ছিল না। মামলাটি ওঠে প্রথমে হাইকোর্টে এবং তারপর সুপ্রিম কোর্টে। অবশেষে আদেশ জারি হয় সমস্ত জবরদখল সরিয়ে সুচিত্রা সেনের স্মৃতিতে তার বাড়িটিতে একটি সংগ্রহশালা গড়ে তোলবার। 2014 সালের জুলাই মাসে জেলা আধিকারিক বাড়িটির দখল নেন। কিছু সংস্কারের পরে অভিনেত্রীর স্মৃতিতে সেখানে একটি সংগ্রহশালা গড়ে তোলা হয়। 2017 এপ্রিলে একটি উদ্বোধনী অনুষ্ঠানের পর সংগ্রহশালাটি জনসাধারণের জন্য উন্মুক্ত করে দেওয়া হয়েছে। And this is the picture of the procession that took place.
Very remarkable, actually.
So basically, this is experiential non-fiction at its enviable best. So engrossing that, of course, you can make a movie out of it. Thank you so much.
Some very moving paragraphs Bappaditya read out in Bengali. The book also has some rare photographs. One is this Shobha Jatra for taking over Suchitra Sen's house as museum. Other is Sheikh Mujib with Gandhiji. These photographs have all been published in the Bengali book. Since Mr. Elias will have to leave in about 15 minutes time, may I request some comments from the audience? And I will first request Jayanto, because he is also a eminent historian. So your observation, though you have not read the book, but about the discussion, if you could make a few comments, then we'll go to the others.
Thank you all the distinguished panelists. Anitadi, I haven't read the book, but I get a sense of what the book is about, and I can relate to it as a person with roots to eastern side of Bengal, and as somebody who aspired to visit Bangladesh for a long time and could only manage it in 2016. So yes, I personally again I had the opportunity to sort of look back on the memories of Eastern Bengal conveyed to me by my parents, by my grandparents, and so on, and to see Bangladesh at close hand. I think we were privileged to listen to an excellent panel discussion, a panel discussion which really engaged with the contents of the book. Not only, I would say that it's great that we had a very deep engagement with the book, and I won't comment on the contents of it because I haven't read it out, but I think it was very evident, and it's wonderful that Justice Gokhale has taken the pains of writing this book out of his own deep personal engagement with Bangladesh over a long period, over almost half a century. And I look forward to reading the book very soon and to reflect back on the comments that we had during this session, and to then to renew my engagement with a land which is close to all of our hearts. Thank you.
Mr. Kumar, would you like to say something?
It's fine. There are a lot of
Okay.
other audiences.
Okay. Please introduce yourself, and if you have any question, please put your question.
সুধীজন শুভ সন্ধ্যা, সবাইকে ফাল্গুনী অভিনন্দন জানিয়ে এবং ভারত বাংলাদেশ মৈত্রীর অনন্ত পরমায়ু কামনা করে আমি জানাই, আমার অদমের নাম বিশ্বজিৎ সিনহা। আমি ভাষা শহীদ শফিউর রহমানের পাশের পাড়ার মানুষ। সেই জন্য বাংলা ভাষা এবং বাংলাদেশ আমাদের অত্যন্ত আবেগের বিষয়। আমি কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাই যে এত সুন্দর একটা অনুষ্ঠান আমাদের উপহার দিলেন কর্তৃপক্ষ, এবং জয়ন্তবাবুকে আরও বিশেষ করে অভিনন্দন জানাই, কারণ উনি এবং রাজু ভাইয়ের যুগলবন্দিতে আমরা অনেক সুন্দর সুন্দর অনুষ্ঠান পেয়েছি। একটু বিষণ্ণতাও ছেয়ে যাচ্ছে আমাদের। একটা জিনিস আমার অবাক লাগছে, এই যে একটা কথা আমরা সবাই জানি যে এই নারী সেনার যন্ত্রণা নিয়ে যারা ওপার বাংলা থেকে চলে এসছেন এবং এখানে এসে ছিন্নমূল মানুষরা অনেক দুঃখ যন্ত্রণার মধ্যে দিয়ে তাদের কাটাতে হয়েছে। একটা বিদ্রূপ তাদের প্রায়শই শুনতে হয়েছে, যে যারা খুব সত্যিকারের বিত্তবান ছিলেন, আরে তোমাকে সকলেরই তো বলো যে তাল গাছ আছিল, সুপারি গাছ আছিল, পুকুর ভরা মাছ আছিল। এইরকম একটা যন্ত্রণার মধ্যে দিয়ে আমরা খুব ভাল লাগলো। বাপ্পাদিত্য বাবুর রচনা অত্যন্ত ঝরঝরে এবং ওর বাচনভঙ্গি এত সুন্দর যে চোখ মুজে শুনলে মনে হচ্ছিল শ্রমিক বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায় বলছেন। একটা খুব ভালো লাগছিল। না অনুবাদক, হ্যাঁ অনুবাদ ভারী সুন্দর হয়েছে আর কি। আর আমাদের মাননীয় বিচারপতি গোখলে মহাশয়ের একটা জিনিস আমার খুব অবাক লেগেছে, মানে খুব অভিনবত্ব আছে, সেটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে উনি অন্য ভাষার মানুষ হলেও বাংলা চলচ্চিত্রের প্রতি বোধহয় ওনার একটা বিশেষ অনুরাগ আছে, হয়তো উনি দেখেছেন, মানে তামিলে এই সুচিত্রা সেন এতটা প্রাসঙ্গিক হয়ে যাবেন ওর গ্রন্থে, এটা এই সম্বন্ধে একটু আমাদের একটু জানতে ইচ্ছে করছে যে উনি সত্যি বাংলা ছবি কতটা দেখতেন।
আপনার ওই বইটা, পুরো বইটা পড়লে আরো ভালো বুঝতে পারবেন। শুধু সুচিত্রা সেনের প্রসঙ্গই নয়, তপন সিনহার এখনই চলচ্চিত্রটার প্রসঙ্গ,
আরো বিভিন্ন চলচ্চিত্রের প্রসঙ্গে শুনলাম।
শেষে নায়ক যেটা বলছে আর কি, স্বরূপ দত্ত যেটা বলছেন, হ্যাঁ, সেই ব্যাপারটাও উনি মানে বইয়ের মধ্যে ধারণ করেছেন।
আর শহীদ ভাষা শহীদ শফিউর রহমানের নাম আপনারা নিশ্চয়ই জানেন, কারণ 21-এর রক্ত ঝরার প্রতিবাদে উনি আন্দোলন করতে গিয়ে উনি জীবন দিয়েছিলেন, 22শে ফেব্রুয়ারি ওর মৃত্যু হয়েছিল। যাই হোক, আমাদের এটা খুব ভাল লাগলো যে উনি একজন অন্য ভাষার মানুষ হয়ে এই বিষয়টা নিয়ে যে উনি হাত দিয়েছেন, ওর কলমে যেটা উঠে এসেছে, তার জন্য আমার কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাই। অনেক ধন্যবাদ।
You wanted to please introduce yourself. Yes, yes.
Hello.
Okay, this is Arundhati Rai, and I wanted to ask Justice Hemant Gokhale that does your book, I haven't read your book, right? I just heard snippets from various persons. Is there a chapter on the role of women, in particular Bangladeshi women, to fight against the Pakistanis in this revolution? Have you mentioned it in any chapter? Because there are very, very big stalwarts. I mean, we are doing a lot of research, and it's amazing. A small country that was so ill-treated and badly treated, but the women stood the foreground. Thank you.
No, not specifically, but then yeah, there is not because the purpose of the book is different. You have to see it from a different perspective. It is a combination of two journeys, but you can comment on that, sir.
I'm thankful for. Is it on?
I think it's on. Yeah.
I'm thankful for the query that is put to me, that I have not written about the Bangladeshi women who struggled during the freedom struggle in 1971. Well, the first part of the book is about my experiences when I went in 1971, and in that there are references to some women activists whom I had met, like
Srimati Mujumdar,
Gargi Ayub, and some of them. But you see, I mean, 1971, I wouldn't know, I mean, many others. So I quite understand that some of the things, if they were there, it would have been better. But then whosoever I have met, I have referred. Now in the second part, I have referred to Hamida Hussain, this wife of Kamal Hussain, and she was activist during those days. She has written about the plight of women of East Bengal. And something, you see, I wish, I intend to meet her sometimes later. Part of her life story I came to know during those days, because she is from the West Pakistan origin. She is from Karachi. She belongs to a Sindhi Muslim family, married to Kamal Hussain when they met in England and US. And then she identifies herself with the agitation of the East Bengal people and writes about the suffering of women, etc. I have made a mention of it, but someday I wish when I meet her, I will get more particulars, because her family was a leading family in Karachi. And her mother, her relatives, they were all, they worked during the post-Pakistan period for the refugees who came from India to Pakistan. She belongs to such a background, and on marriage she comes to East Pakistan and identifies herself with East Pakistan. So there are those some references, but I wish I write about her sometimes later or other women. But there are many other, I mean, Hamida Hussain herself has written, and there are many others. So unless I know something particularly, then only I will write. Okay, thank you.
We have had a discussion, yeah. And thanks everybody for being there. Very interesting book. Please see that you read the book. It's available in Kolkata, Ekush Shatak, bang in the College Street. And I'm sure you like reading the book. And at the same time, we can't expect everything from author of a book because it is not an encyclopedia on India and Bangladesh.